Hello and welcome to the MikoBits show, and I'm very, very excited today. It's a bit of a traditional show. We have Emiliano Bonassi, who is a co-founder of DeFi Italy with Simone Conti, and these guys have been, I guess, OG in the DeFi space. So, very much excited to speak with him. It's not a very kind of project focused type of episode. So, we are going to dig into a lot of pretty urgent, exciting topics. We're going to touch things like Ethereum gas, and we're going to touch things like L2 scaling, obviously security. Emiliano is very expert in security across a pretty wide number of different projects. So would love to deepen all of our knowledge with the help of Emiliano. So one quick disclaimer, obviously this is an opinion and entertainment program, so it's not investment advice, so don't go taking it as an investment advice. So, I guess without further ado, Emiliano, welcome to the MikoBits show.
Hey.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Miko.
Of course. Very good. So I would love to kind of start with kind of you. So let's hear a little bit about kind of your background and how did you get into the DeFi world? I mean, it's quite an amazing story, and I'd love to hear, how did this happen for you?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. I mean, as many of the, nice stories, it was, a little bit disruptive. I mean, that I was working for a company that he was operating in the blockchain space, building a wallet that was multi-currency, multi-platform. And we were basically investigating where the basically market were going. So this DeFi world popped up. And so with my colleagues, we decided to basically investigate further. So I joined the DeFi, the global group, and started, to see chattings around, this new lending mechanism, this new way to, let's say, print at that time, single collateral DAI.
Yes.
So let's say the basics of what we have in traditional finance, but open, transparent, and collaborative. So I started, I'm a technical person, so I started to understand the protocols, reading the white paper. I remember that one of the very first, just a 2-pager, honestly, was Compound. I was very fascinated that, honestly, it was something very new, and but at the same time, so simple to understand. Obviously, under the hood, it's not so simple at all. But I felt that that could be a thing. So that's why I started, to follow more Twitter profiles, Sasanet First, for instance, and many others. And I started to discover that was a complete new world focusing on this kind of things. I discovered, for instance, synthetics. I discovered token sets. We did the first trials with token set, and at that time I remember that the total value locked was it was the, let's say, November 2019, and the total value locked was less than 1 billion.
Yes.
And there was just 10 protocols. But when I started to see that it was something good for our products or our wallet, I started to figure out ways to integrate those protocols and also to explain to our users how this new, let's say, finance world and open finance world was working. And honestly, it's not only finance, it's also governance, participation. But at the very beginning, you have to start with a simple stuff. So with our team, we started to build some integration. and I see that the user was very attracted with these, new ways for interact with the cryptos. That was not the, let's say, the traditional crypto that we were used to, and I mean productive in this sense. And we see that there was traction. Users want to understand more and more and more. And I remember when Dave Craig was asking in the international group, "Hey guys, but do you have any Italian DeFi group?" And there I was saying, "I have to do that. We have to do that." So we started the Telegram group, and many and many people started to join it because we focused on the educational perspective. So we are used to to think about crypto like Schiller's or maybe not so unbiased reviews. We try to do different, so organizing meetups, etc., and we become the most the biggest country specific group. And before the COVID, we were doing also physical meetups. I remember that in December, I think, the month after, we were something like 100 people physically in the same place, and that was a great success to me. And that was an indication for me that that is a good sector to focus on from a technological perspective, for knowledge, for working. And so we started to build. And we built, for instance, the very first site when there was the migration to DAI, we built a simple tracker with the columns to show the migration. We started to build other products, and we went, for me, at the very first conference for Ethereum. So we went to ETH Denver that year, so in February, and was really for me, let's say, I remember that experience as it changed me. I met Robert from Compound.
Yeah.
I met the guys from Token Set, and it was like you feel that it's so early. We are building something new and something that is working. So it was very a good sensation. And also at ETH Denver, when you see all the people that you talk every day on Twitter, on Telegram, physically, was fantastic. I still miss those moments. And after that, basically, the DeFi Italy has a community grows. We are more than 1,500 and now just in Italy that speak in Italian only. And I built with Simone other stuffs for synthetics and for other products. I joined HAL, an IFTT for Ethereum, and so I continued basically in that job. And only recently, I think this summer, I started to become interesting also in investigating more some issues that occurred, because many users that you have in the community maybe are exposed to those new protocols. So it's up to you as a community, let's say moderator, manager, or whatever, to, if you have the knowledge, to leverage it to help those users. So that was my goal. So I started, to, when there was an issue, after that, basically explain with a thread what was going on. So that was interesting. And this ended up in creating just recently a new concept that is Reviews DAO.
Yes.
That basically tried to bring more, let's say, liquidity to the security workforce. So currently, many protocols struggle with audits and in general with reviews.
Oh, it's a huge
so
problem.
for releasing their features, they would like to have more eyes on it. Think about the medium size, the average size of a protocol. They are 2, 3 people. So they are not so much. And many times there is also only one technical person. So
So
having,
excuse me. What is this project called? The DAO.
the project for, yeah, the DAO is Reviews DAO.
Oh, reviews. Okay, reviews DAO. Okay, super interesting and very valuable.
Cool, thank you. And so I try to figure out, talking with people, to many protocol owners, to many builders, what was the issue. And the issue is basically that we have a lot of demand of this stuff, but we don't have any sort of offer. So many new, let's say, people that are technically valid, that join this ecosystem, start to build, only build. Instead, we need that more people start also to reviewing stuff, or maybe start a career in the security. So Reviews DAO is an initiative that try to, let's say, start from the basics. So try to aggregate together people that need reviews. So not audits, reviews of code, security one, gas optimization, any kind of reviews. Could be individuals that maybe are building some sort of integration. Could be protocols that maybe are launching a new feature. And people that want to offer their skill set for doing these reviews. And the idea for this peer-to-peer decentralized audit, in let's say not audit but reviews, I would like to see if some sort of patterns emerge, like something that we can having some pool of reviewers or some new concept. Because I didn't find out a way for efficient solving the problem. So I was like, okay, just create a space where anyone can ask for reviews and anyone can offer reviews and see what happens. It could totally fail, honestly, but I would say that since a week, we have more than 5 projects that asked for review. One of them is Idle Finance,
Yes. Yes.
that also concluded. That asked someone, offered the reviews, and they closed today. So today they are paying out those people. Another ones, the very first, was Cover Protocol, that offered, asked for a review. And I talked, I think, yesterday with CryptoPumpkin, and he said that he's going away. He's going ahead. So that's fantastic for me. Yesterday, Alpha Finance asked for a review, and I cannot anticipate anything, but there are other protocols that are joining this new way. And let's see what happens. This is something that helped them before the let's say launching in production. But there are many other initiatives. The one started with by Scott from DeFi Pools, so Code 4, Immunify, that basically set up a bug bounty and try to crowd bug bounty and offer a centralized way to see which are the protocols that want to offer this kind of stuff. But we are thinking also about new models to offer, let's say, war room services for the protocols that experience hacks. Because in my experience, when we saw security issues, many protocols was, let's say, don't know what exactly do in this kind of events.
Yeah.
So if you have prepared people that support them on taking decision, and this is the case, for instance, of Primitive Finance with Immunify and the DDAP team, basically what you do is not that you are building more stuff in DeFi, but you are helping protocols and all the industry to be consolidated, to be safer. Because if we continue to build without control, basically users start to get scared and don't want to play anymore.
Yes.
Also, maybe if the risk reward is attractive. But I think that if we want to, let's say, reach the mainstream adoption, or anyway to be more mature as an industry, we cannot be only research and development, but we need some sort of industrialization. We need some sort of guardrails. That's the idea.
I like it.
That's the beginning of me, and that's how I ended. So basically, in my spare time, basically, I enjoy DeFi, going ahead with this kind of initiatives.
That's very exciting. So I would love to kind of get your kind of perspective on some projects, particularly from a security perspective. I think you mentioned idle finance. So like full disclosure, my fund, Gumi Cryptos Capital, is invested in idle finance. But I'd love to kind of hear more. Like, obviously you've had a chance to look at a number of different architectures, so I'd love to kind of understand, your perspectives and try to hear from you.
Absolutely. I think that Hydro Finance protocols is one of the protocols that, let's say, prefer to move at a right pace, so at their right pace, but basically do all their best. Not that the other doesn't do their best, but they do their best to basically be aligned with the community, and at the same time do whatever they can for getting the code and the architecture as safe as possible.
Yeah.
So we can say that maybe there are protocols that could be, let's say, more ahead of idle, but I would say that idle, it's continuously growing, and it's still here since their first hackathon that basically launched the protocol.
Yeah.
They did many audits. They reached an interesting TVL when they launched their token, and they still didn't experience any sort of, security impact. But
Yes.
I remember when they had some issues. I remember some rounding issues that they had in the past with the YDX, and I remember when I talked with William about what could be the best way, to communicate this, but also, which would be the technical implication of some choices. So that for me, it's a good signal for a protocol. And if, for instance, it was, let's say, a primer for the reviews DAO, because if someone else asks you for reviews, that means, okay, I know my limits. I would like to have an unbiased opinion of what I wrote, and that's good. So I would say that there are audits for idle. Now they are proceeding with asking for reviews to the community, along with for big stuff for the audits. But I think that those two stuffs are not mutually exclusive, because you cannot engage with, let's say, a good investment, an auditing fee for, let's say, few features that doesn't impact meaningfully your architecture. You need something more agile. Peer reviews, or let's say community reviews, are a way to achieve them. And I think that they are on a good track in this sense. And also, I think that they launched the smart treasury based on Balancer recently, and was one of the community member, not me, absolutely, that tried to do the integration. He had success, and they asked for review to me, to some member of a PyDAO, to Balancer team. So I would like to see, I think that a protocol could be good if cooperate a lot with the industry. But we have also other examples of maybe more, let's say, institutional protocols that maybe have a lot of good resources inside, and maybe they are not so, let's say, vocal or community open in this sense, but they are a lot safe. So I cannot say that this is the only way to be more safer, but honestly, it's a good attitude for being that.
That's great. That's definitely the impression I've gotten from William and Matteo and the team is that they are very measured and they do
Yeah,
they
measure is the right word.
yes, I think that's a good thing because one of the things I've kind of learned from decades in open source software is that open source software kind of confers immortality, right? So it's sort of the most patient form of software, so it because open source knows it's going to win, right? Open source is patient because it knows it's eventually going to dominate and win. Just so in a sense, gradualism is, it's funny to see because, obviously there's a certain kind of frenzy that comes with DeFi, but like, and people like losing sleep. But I think on the other hand, like a little bit of patience. I've recently been thinking that life is a series of decisions of when to be patient and when to be impatient. So, I think it's really, those are the choices that we're given. So, and I think there's no easy answer, right? There's no, you can't say always be patient and you can't say always be impatient, right? Neither strategy ever is good, right? It's very,
No, no,
very,
no.
it's deeply situational. So I think that's what's
It,
interesting.
the context, basically, I think that the rule is uh, being able to understand when a strategy could fit a particular context and when is not. So basically, the same strategy could be very bad in a context, and the other one could be, let's say, not. I mean, could be okay. So absolutely, I agree that let's say the way you decide is the represent yourself. Obviously, you are the sum of your choices.
Give me a good example. And I to me, what you're saying actually has incredible depth, right? Because in a sense, like, the sure bet is to go with, what's deeply ensconced in yourself, right? So the idea that you can kind of really, the best you that you can be is really how you truly are, right? So I think that is the big bet. But I would love to kind of zoom in on any examples that come to your mind, like what are the projects that you like that embody the founder or that kind of express these kind of like sentiments.
Yeah, I think that another quality, there are two qualities that I like of DeFi that I mention a lot of time. The first one is to be anti-fragile, and the
Yes.
second one is to relentless work. I mean, continue to work steadily, as a tractor. I mean, you face an issue, okay, you go bad, and you rise up again. So, for instance, I don't want to shield any protocol, but for instance, synthetics for me
Yes.
represents a lot of these, let's say, tenets and values. So they started with a limited community, somehow not seen so good by, let's say, the Ethereum community. So there was this division between, the ones that was sponsoring Maker, the one that was shilling or sponsoring Synthetics community. Each of them has their own peculiarities, but each of them are honest with themselves.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I like of Synthetics is that you get a release and a new feature every 1 week or 2 weeks.
Huh.
And is continuing since I'm in DeFi.
Amazing.
So since a year. So how many protocols you know that every 2 weeks deliver a new thing? I think that they were one of the very first to have this concept of improvement proposal, SIP, synthetics improvement proposal. They technically they are quite good, and I like a lot Justin, the CTO of Synthesis, has also their team. I mean, they are very, let's say, diligent, precise. So it's a good example. Also from a documentation perspective, when I built SNX Link, a project based on Synthetix, one of the very first app built on top of Synthetix, uh, generally, when you try to integrate a protocol, you mess up reading sparse information.
Yes.
Some smart contract code there, you see that in production is deployed another one, you cannot understand the API. Instead, when you go to Synthetix, everything is ordered, everything is always updated, and everything is working. So I think that from a development experience perspective, you cannot get a better team, I mean, a better protocol than Synthetix. Yes, they have some difficult concepts to understand. So it's not an easy protocol, but honestly, it's more than well documented. So from a, let's say, attitude perspective, and also from, let's say, a technical perspective, I like a lot Synthetix because they are very good. And another one that I mean, I got close recently, and it's peculiar too, maybe more than Synthetix, but it's I mean, you could say everything. You could say that maybe sometimes the reaction of some members of the team are not the ones that you expected, but if you have some protocols that was saved and integrated, it's thanks to that team, is Wired team. So yes. I think that they build all night long. They think about ideas. They also, if they maybe could seems, because they are at the end of the day, Dejan somehow, with the, let's say, the newest release, so the version 2 of the Vault system, they are demonstrating that they can build a solid product. They are demonstrating that they are able to attract and retain talents. Recently, they basically did a vesting contract for all the contributors of YEarn, and at the same time, they are building, I mean, a lot of things, very good things, and they are improving the industry
That's
a lot.
that's a beautiful example to me, right? Because I think when we talk about patience versus impatience, right? Like Andre is on record as like, I test in production, right? Which is like a beautiful. It's beautiful and also dangerous, right? And in a sense, there's two ways of looking at this statement. It's a deep, deep statement, right? One of the things looking at it is you can look at it as impatience, right? Which is you can look at it as kind of this, let's just go, right? Like let's see, right? But on the flip side, the thing that's so interesting about what you're reflecting in the culture is that there is also patience to kind of like steadily build from there, right? Which is that they continue to sort of pump out, and the thing that the other way of looking at it too, though, is that like there isn't a test harness that simulates the wild as well as the wild, right? So in a sense, like putting things into the wild, is probably the best possible test, right? And obviously we've seen things like eminence, and we've seen kind of rug pulling in that ecosystem. But I think in a sense there's sort of a tacit acknowledgement of this kind of creative destruction, right? So I think there's some very interesting dynamics. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So the assumption is, first, we are in a complete new industry. Everything is an experiment. Something could be, let's say, we could see that some solutions are more close to something that seems not experiment at all, but we are still in the experimental phase. And so, I mean, this is the first assumption that everyone that joined this ecosystem from a job perspective or from a user perspective has to accept.
Yes.
Because if you don't do, you are a fool. you are foolish, basically. Yeah, absolutely. So that's, I mean, there are a lot of risks. As soon as you calculate the risk, you start to play. So in this industry, you have two main actors: the users. I mean, it seems to be trivial, but you have to think about it. The users and the ones that build basically the stuffs, build or anyway work in this
Yes.
industry. So when you see that, when we have to say impatience, someone is impatient, someone is patient, I would say that when we saw big issues that happened, I think it's hard to say it's one person liability or responsibility and not the other ones. I would say that the mix sometimes could be destructive.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
in that sense, if you know that you have, let's say, a stimulus and a response, so the stuff that you build and the response of that, and maybe all of your actions are looked, stalkered a lot, maybe you have to move, let's say, at a different pace. But honestly, this is not an expectation, because it's something that you decide to do or not. And ultimately, let's say, the effect of an action is related to the ones that execute it. So if someone got rug pulled, or maybe had an hack, is basically his own responsibility. Ultimately, I'm not saying that is not, only his responsibility, but most of you pressed on the ledger to execute this transaction. So if you weren't, you were impatient to do that stuff.
Yes, correct.
So if on the other stuff you already have another impatient stuff, basically you are doubling the impatience. So I would say that it's difficult to say. And last but not least, consider that the best protocols should have both the souls. So the impatient one that basically drive let's say, the innovation, or anyway, the experimentation, and the other one that is slow a little bit, and that maybe has other tensions. So the tension between them, so the contrast, is the equilibrium that basically drive the success or not of
yes.
a protocol.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
You see, and I could say that in YEarn, you just have to participate to some, community that are around on Telegram. You see that there are both let's say, the souls, and at the same time you see that maybe some people in some context are impatient. Okay, let's say when you are happy, you are releasing something great, etc., etc. But on the other side, when there are something critical, they are more conscious, they are more patient. So, I mean, we cannot label with impatient or patient anyone or any protocol. It's really depending on the situation.
But what you're saying is very deep, right? It's very exciting, right? Because in a sense, the balance between patience and impatience in some ways ideally reflects the soul of the creature, right? So I'll give you an example, right? Which is like people say, like slow and steady wins the race, right? So there's the idea of like a tortoise, right? This turtle, right? A turtle is expressing its nature, right? But if you look at another creature, look at like a cobra, right? So if you study a cobra, the thing that's so funny about a cobra is you can't say the cobra is impatient, because if you study it, it's crazily patient, right? Like if you study a cobra, it's incredibly still for like quite a period of time. And then when it moves, though, it moves like incredibly fast, right? So there are so many kinds of like souls of projects, and I totally agree with your mindset, which is you can't just sort of classify them in a simple way. It's a non-simple rubric for understanding what you're seeing, I think. And I think, to me, I very much admire Andre and the YFI team, around things like, even around things like eminence, where they experience collapse. But of course, he said everything. He's disclosed everything. He's very honest. He's like, this is an experiment. I'm testing in production. This governance token has no value. Like, it's all disclosed, and good luck to you. Like, please understand it. Understand it before you do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to comment directly the issue because there are many people that commented, and so
Of
my
course.
comment would be just one of them. What I could say is in general that it's one of the very first industries where you have a close, if not direct, contact to your end users, and you can experiment at a large scale any kind of strategy that you want to realize. So in this sense, when we, let's say, saw an issue like let's say Eminence or any other, or maybe a new campaign or whatever, anything that could be positive or negative at the end, the always positive side is that you got an answer. So basically, you saw how the ecosystem or the community reacted, and you have to take it as an input for improving them. So I would say that we had a lot of security incidents or in general issues, and DeFi is one of that. Yes, some repeated, but basically that's the anti-fragile stuff. We always continue. Think about the let's say the Black Thursday.
Yes.
So the issue with Maker.
Yes.
So it was not only an issue for Maker, many others was impacted. So it was a major event. Let's say something like a Black Swan event. Anyone was suffering. How we reacted, we got close to Maker to provide support with the backstop syndicate. So tell me where in a industry you see people that when there is, a group of them that is suffering, instead of competing, get close and help to get back on track. I remember at the very beginning when the people was, when a protocol, there was a very hard competition. I could say that in this moment, when there is an issue, we grow a lot. We are open to help. We are there. There are a lot of, let's say, things that we have to do yet. We have major issues. We still have probably many black hats that see vulnerabilities, exploit them.
Sure.
And
sure.
We have the issue, but we are reacting. Okay. Immunify, bug bounties, security reviews, that less impatience. So we are reacting. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Maybe we do not get the solution today, next week, next month. Maybe we need a year, but we are alive. We react, and that's important.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I think we're bouncing against the top of the hour, but I think that this is actually the most beautiful note, I think, because my thesis is that collapse is inevitable, especially in an emergent system, right? And that the idea that we come back stronger and smarter, right? And the thing that's incredible is the transparency and the community. And so because of this, to me, I feel like what happens is, like you live probably in Milano, pretty close to the Italian Alps, right? And they have a snow avalanche, right? And the way that the ski patrol handles the avalanche is with dynamite, right? They're protecting people by making explosions, by making collapses, right? And what they don't want is they don't want the giant uncontrolled collapse. What they want is they want controlled, smaller collapses through things like experiments. And when they fall apart, they fall apart in front of everyone. Everyone can see exactly the way it falls apart. And that's a beautiful thing to see, especially if it doesn't kill us. If we're not wiped out, that's a beautiful day, right? No matter what happens, it's a beautiful
Yeah,
day because we
yeah,
will come back stronger. We will always come back stronger, which I think is a
yeah.
beautiful thing.
That's that's the essence of the anti-fragile and of DeFi. I mean, I'm pretty sure that anytime we get an issue, my, let's say, North Star is I'm pretty sure that we overcome to this problem. I'm pretty sure that someone comes, propose a new way, help. That's something that we are not used to. If I think to other industries or other, let's say, context, there are very few ones where you have this belief. And that's essential because you feel like to be on the shoulder of a giant. That's the
Yes.
community.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
important.
Yes, it's beautiful, and to me, this is the soul of open source, right? Which is that in a sense, like if someone comes up with innovation, it's shared. Everyone can see it. They can say that's an amazing component. I'm going to have that. And the person who published it is like, yes, please, like that's going to help everyone. It's infrastructural. It's very much kind of like shared, and that these experiences and wisdom get kind of propagated. So I think the rate of innovation is directly proportional to transparency and to this kind of collaboration and the build out of these incredibly like powerful, robust pieces of infrastructure. So I think it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I think one of the things that comes back to the beginning of our conversation is that open source is patient because it knows it's going to win, right? Like that's the pure heart of the patience, right? Which is I am going to win, right? So like I've got all the time in the world because you cannot be stopped, and that's the beauty, I think.
I think I cannot say this, neither the contrary. I would say that have good elements to success in many cases. I mean, interoperability is, let's say, if you have transparency, it's easier, okay? And also, the velocity of the flow of the information, it's even higher. So there are, let's say, many factors that are pro for this kind of stuff. But I would say that also there are other models that that could drive innovation too. But definitely in this moment, especially for finance, being transparent is essential, especially for building trust. That is
Yes.
the
Yes.
first point to build something. I mean, if you are not able to gain trust to your builders and your users, how you can grow?
Yeah, we're definitely witnessing the birth of something incredible. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation, and I'd love to find ways to collaborate with you in the future. So let's stay in touch. This is
Absolutely.
wonderful.
I think that today we did, let's say, a call, just an open discussion. Maybe next time we can focus on specific stuff.
Yeah,
Why
let's
not?
do it. Let's do it. You're definitely welcome back anytime, and really happy to get a chance to talk shop with you. This has been really great. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you. Really appreciate it.